International tourism is a massive industry, generating an estimated $3.5 trillion annually in combined domestic and international activity. That staggering figure is exactly why many developing nations adopt aggressive policies to promote themselves as destinations. They see tourism as a reliable vehicle for socioeconomic growth. This strategy relies on the core tenets of modernization theory, the belief that attracting foreign capital naturally transitions a traditional society into an industrialized, modern economy. However, evaluating the industry through a standard cost-benefit lens creates a massive blind spot. Measuring success through foreign exchange and GDP ignores the toll this development takes on the host community's culture and its surrounding environment. In many cases, unchecked international tourism does not modernize a nation. It merely reorganizes local resources to serve external interests. To understand how this reorganization happens, we have to look past the surface-level benefits and apply the framework of political economy. Classical political economy emerged during the Industrial Revolution, where thinkers studied the raw production and accumulation of wealth. By the 19th century, this focus shifted towards examining how that wealth was distributed across different social classes. Applying this lens to tourism allows us to identify who actually holds the power in these cross-border exchanges. Seen this way, the industry appears to follow a specific architecture, one that mirrors historical patterns of economic dependency. This brings us to dependency theory, a framework that emerged in the 1960s to explain why many countries remain stuck in a state of underdevelopment. In 1967, Andre Gunder Frank modeled the global economic system as two distinct poles, a developed metropolitan center and an underdeveloped periphery. The theory suggests that a periphery nation's lack of development is caused by external structures rather than its own internal traditionalism. Specifically, it identifies an outward flow where raw materials are extracted from the periphery and sent to the core. The periphery is then forced to purchase manufactured goods back from the center at a higher cost. The result is a siphoning of economic surplus to dominant countries, ensuring the core develops while the periphery struggles. Developing countries often enter the international tourism market, hoping to break this cycle by generating local jobs. But by integrating into this pre-existing capitalist structure, peripheral destinations frequently end up feeding the core's economy instead of building their own. In the early 1980s, scholar Stephen Britton applied this theory directly to third-world tourism destinations. He noted that Western firms possess insurmountable commercial advantages because they were the first to define and supply the global tourism industry. Britton described this as the enclave model, a localized physical manifestation of core periphery extraction. Within these closed systems, transnational hotels, tour operators, and airlines own and dictate the products and services. Host governments use local tax dollars to build the roads, water lines, and power grids that the resort depends on. But once a tourist pays, that capital is immediately captured by the transnational firms and leaves the country. This is known as leakage, where the majority of profits bypass the local economy entirely. Transnational tour operators accelerated this by packaging destinations and bargaining down local suppliers. These corporations rarely invest their own capital in the third world, choosing instead to secure local or foreign loans. The enclave model reinforces dependency by privatizing all the gains of tourism while socializing the infrastructure costs. 1990s neoliberal policies removed barriers to the cross-border mobility of capital, further concentrating tourism power in a few corporate hands. This forced destination regions to shift from passive recipients to aggressive competitors, desperate to attract foreign investment. This exploitative dynamic scaled down, repeating itself within the borders of a single nation. In a domestic context, tourism often acts as a centrifugal force that reflects existing core periphery relationships. Tourists from wealthy metropolitan cities act as the dominant core when they visit less prosperous rural areas. These visitors dictate local services, forcing rural populations to cater to urban palates and behaviors. Under unchecked market policies, the core periphery dynamic is fractal, extracting wealth and cultural autonomy from rural peripheries to serve urban metropoles. To understand this terminal trajectory, look at Butler's product lifecycle model. Initially, popularity rises as capital floods in and tourist numbers spike. Eventually, growth hits a limit, the destination's socio-ecological carrying capacity. When extraction breaches this limit, the destination enters a sharp decline. Ignoring these limits lead to physical consequences, including the depletion of local water tables and deforestation. For example, protective coastal mangroves are often removed to make way for hotel foundations and shopping malls. When a natural disaster like a tsunami strikes, the loss of that environmental infrastructure has catastrophic consequences for the local population. Because transnational capital has no geographic loyalty, it abandons the destination when it collapses, leaving the host population with ruined livelihoods. Tourism's outcome is not dictated by the industry itself, but by who owns the development. Moving towards small-scale local alternatives can shift this balance of power. Community-managed projects, such as Himalayan homestays, allow locals to control their resources and retain direct income. Keeping tourism revenues within the community disrupts the enclave model, narrowing the divide between core and periphery. Ultimately, this shift to local control internalizes environmental limits and breaks the cycle of colonial extraction.